Good morning. Let's get started. All right. Let's see here. So Trump on his meeting with Z. The meeting was a 12 out of 10. Nice. That sounds good. We want to see the trade deal come through. Absolutely. But SPY selling off. Okay, that makes sense. That is how it goes. Nice. Yeah, we got some swings on for trade deal stuff. So fingers crossed on those. 90% must lose money. Yeah, you know what? I remember whenever we had the Taiwan semiconductor deal thing, very similar. Was it TSM? Yeah, Taiwan Semiconductor. Kind of the same thing happened. And I remember this because, the obvious thing would be that the market's going to go up or the stock is going to go up. And back here in January this year, we had the deal for TSM to build in the US. So they were going to build. And I figured, okay, well, maybe this will break out and keep going. The opposite happened. It actually started a big crash, which this crash was like a kind of a stealth crash. I don't think a lot of people really talked about it, but this is very similar to what happened during COVID. Not as extreme, but a very similar style crash right here that ensued right after that deal. It was the whole market, not just TSM, but that led to one of the best buying opportunities you're ever going to get for the market. So 40-50% drop very quickly led to this ridiculous rally, which we are still in, and we are in the second leg up. Now the question, is it going to top out here or is it going to keep going? Not really sure. Not really sure about that. So far, things are looking really strong. And if it does top out, it's going to probably chop around for months around the top before it does decide to top out. But anyways, TSM deal happened over here in January somewhere. And then that led to this crazy pullback. So wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar. If there's a trade deal or if there's good news and the market's extended, then it could just lead to a dip and then a continuation rally after that dip. So many ways it can play out, but I thought that was really interesting from that Taiwan semiconductor deal to build in the US. Reducing our reliance on China because China wants to own Taiwan. They've been trying to get a hold of it forever. So I'm really wondering if they're on the verge of doing that or not. Either way, we have our own manufacturing in the US, so that's good. So it looks like we're on the verge of a deal with China. We'll see if anything comes of that. But let's take a look at some of these gappers. Small cap stuff. INTS. We'll get a sub-dollar stock here. About to get to $1. Would love to see this go over $1. What's the news? It's another biotech. Another biotech. Late stage clinical biotech. Blah, 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 blah. What are we doing? Okay. Announces. Okay, they published something in a journal. Sweet. Just like to see what's going on with these. VCIG. Let's look at the news here. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and add some of this to the watch list. INTS, I don't have that one. All right. So VCIG started running in after hours yesterday. There we go. Appointed exclusive issuer and treasury manager for 1 billion of XVIQ tokens. So this sounds a lot like the MicroStrategy style news, which we've been seeing a lot of. And they're not done using that news to pump the stock yet. So we're seeing more of this. XVIQ token, next generation digital asset designed to support AI infrastructure, GPU, cloud computing. Keyword, keyword, keyword. If you say all the keywords, you can make the stock move higher. This is a Malaysia company. Incredibly dilutive company. You can take a look at the daily chart here and just see the stock was never trading at $70,000. Wait, is that 700,000? Yeah. The stock was never $700,000 a share. They've just done these reverse splits over and over again. So got a 1 to 49, a 1 to 20, a 1 to 30 recently. Love to see it. So will they dilute again? Question mark. So nice gap here overnight, little 4 a.m. clear out move. And then what's going to happen now? We are watching closely CMBM. This is the one that ran yesterday. Really blowing out the short sellers. Pretty incredible move. News with Starlink yesterday. So that's pretty big news. And when you get one of these small companies like that, getting news with a big company, okay, that's a pretty good catalyst. We're looking for those catalysts that aren't just fluff nonsense. So that was pretty good. I still expect it to fade and come down. Until it proves otherwise, we don't fight it anymore. So we took a loss on this one. But we ended up cutting it right over here. I should have took a screenshot. So we were out right here around 130 on this short sell. And that was a great cut because this ended up going quite a bit farther. You know, ran on another couple 100% from there. So really a great cut. Maybe you should consider the long on these. When these have actually good catalysts, that's the time to take the long setup. And pretty much any kind of entry will work. As long as you're not too early. You want to let it prove itself. Because usually these fail regardless of the news. But That's where if we let this thing simply prove itself first, show that it's going to hold the dips, hold a dip somewhere, and then improve from there. That's all we want to see. And then it's a matter of just maybe hitting the VWAP reclaim. Okay, breakout pullback to VWAP is okay. I have a 200 moving average reclaim, kind of good too, very similar to the VWAP. Intraday high breakout right over there. Usually want to hit it on the second try, not the first try. So see if I put my line here at 246, it tagged 246 right there and then came back. So I don't necessarily want to get it on the first try. Let it pull back, get it on the second try, and then risk that previous dip area for the long. And then that would put me in the perfect position to capture this 40% move up. It did have some halts in there. And of course, it didn't stop there. It kept going in after hours. So crazy potential there on the long side. Only when the news is actually good, though. We do not want to hit these on fluff news, even if it proves itself like that. Much more likely to just fail, chop out the highs, and then roll over. But if there's a good catalyst, it could be worth it. Definitely could be worth it. So we're keeping that one on watch for today. Let's see what else we have. CVU. Just started popping recently. Let's take a closer look at this one. Haven't seen this one yet. Okay. What is the news? Received an order from Raytheon. Okay, so this is one of those things. So received an order from Raytheon. That's pretty good. Raytheon's a big company. CVU's a tiny company, so potentially a good catalyst to manufacture structural missiles, missile wing assemblies for an undisclosed platform. Fixed price order with deliveries in 2026. Okay, so it's hard to judge this news properly because, we don't know what the deal is. We don't know how big this deal is. We don't know what they're working on. They're not telling us anything. This could be a $1 million deal, or it could be a $1 billion deal for a $100,000 company, $100 million company, I mean. So it could be anything. It's kind of like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. CVU. Pull this one up. So it's 9 million float. We have a $42 million company. It's ridiculously small. They're not particularly dilutive, but they do need cash. So it is sort of a hot sector. Trump is saying to go ahead and test our nuclear weapons, because I think China had a test or something, and Trump says, well, you tested yours. We're going to test ours now. So maybe related to that, it's kind of a hot sector. We've had drones, war stocks that have been hot. This one could be hot. Let me look at the... Okay, this is free to borrow. Interesting. Interesting. Free to borrow stock. Let's look at the daily here. So it trades kind of nice. And by nice, I mean really bad. So because we like the total junk companies. And we like days like this. So we got a nice pop right here. This was all the way back in 2021, but this is what we're after. So had a nice move up to $7. It sort of filled this, not a gap, but kind of a gap fill situation. And then came right back. Did it again over here. Nice. That's what we'd like to see. And that is it. That is the only tradable moves from the stock in the past. So we had one in 2020, one in 2021. And then since then, it's done pretty much nothing until today. A little bit sketchy news. I wouldn't really want to go against that news, but it looks like I want to go against the stock. That is a potential trade setting up. I don't like it here, but if you've seen my last video about top ticking, and we are short selling, so for now that's what we're talking about. We do take some longs occasionally, but usually the shorts are just way more frequent. But yeah, my last video about top ticking is exactly why I wouldn't short this here. So we need this to set up, and it might do it. It's got a pretty big odds, I think, of setting up. We are close to the open, though. Definitely one to keep an eye on. So it's a trash can company, but decent news and not particularly dilutive. Makes for a pretty interesting stock for today. CVU. Definitely want to watch that. I'd be careful shorting this one. But it's always a short until it's not. So it just isn't set up yet. So not going to be touching this. Not really interested yet. But potentially, we'll see what happens into the open. This one could turn into a long. This one actually has potential to become a long. Plus we had CMBM yesterday, which was super impressive. We'll keep a close eye on this one. We might have to hit a long setup on it later, but it is going to have to set up. So not really interested yet. I like the long here better than the short, but I wouldn't buy here either. Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily. We're working on a setup that buys stuff like this early, but for now, we want it to prove itself, hold the dip like CMBM, and then maybe we'll have a setup on it. So basically, what I want is another CMBM or something similar where we can hold a gap and then reclaim on good news. Little dilution or no dilution whatsoever. So we'll see what happens with it. Definitely going to keep a close watch on it after the open. All right, let's take a look at some swings. We're still watching some stuff here. BMNR, not quite set up. We tried BMNR one time, stopped out on it, and we want this kind of a move to happen. Unfortunately, I think Trump might have actually killed it back here on the 25th because he said, hey, we're doing 100% tariffs on China. So he's constantly saying, tariff, no tariff, tariff, no tariff, tariff, no tariff, you know. Nobody knows what he's going to do. But it's holding a dip right here. Now, this is tied to Ethereum, so very heavily tied to crypto. Cathie Wood has bought it. Kind of interesting. So this actually has some pretty crazy institutional interest. And if it does hold up, we could see a pretty massive move on it. It's kind of like RGTI. Now, everybody knew RGTI was a scam, right? Everybody knew it. Skrelly knew it. Okay, Skrelly was shorting back here in the 14s, 13 area. Had to stop out. And then it kept going. So it was a good stop out because it went all the way up to 57. But don't want to be early. And even if it's a scam, well, it can squeeze because everyone knows it's a scam. So all the shorts are going to pile into it. And if it doesn't go down like it's supposed to, we get an explosive move like this. So RGTI is still hanging out, but this is what BMNR could do after pushing like this, holding up higher lows. It's the exact same setup as CMBM, guys. It's exactly the same. It's just on the daily chart and not the 1 minute chart. So holding up too well, it starts pushing the high over here. Guess what? I could buy the breakout on something that's a true powerful squeeze. It doesn't matter where I buy it. I could buy on a trend break. I could buy on the break. Usually I don't like to buy on the first break. I like to buy on the second break, but this one was so strong. It just ripped right through and kept going. Little chop right here for the next leg higher. And that was the blow off. So we took the short on this right over here, right around 49. All right. Simple trend break off a blow off top. Classic penny stock pattern on a daily chart. And that's where the edge comes from, because these guys like Martin Shkreli, they don't look at charts much. They look at valuations. The valuation was way overvalued down here at 12 bucks. So he's shorting it. And that's all he needs to know to take a trade. And that's why he can get squeezed like that. It's more than just the valuation. It's what is the stock actually doing? The price action is king. So now we're looking for the bounce short. We did cover that. And, you know, I'm kind of hoping it just does a little pop here. I'm going to start hitting the bounces. It had a nice green day yesterday, so I want to see it push back up into this 20 moving average. And then it could test all the way up into this trend line, potentially. We'll see if it does that. Not really expecting it to, but it could. And that would be the opportune place to reshort, in my opinion. And let me just look at one more here. Lulu. We have trade deals coming up, hopefully. PayPal's up and down and up and down. I think PayPal's gearing up for a big move too. Let me see. Where's my Lulu? There it is. Yeah, so Lulu had a nice trend break. So we bought in on the trend break. Okay, we're down a little bit now, but we need to see this trade deal. We need to see this come through. And then this will probably take off. Fingers crossed. These big caps can be choppy, so it can do whatever it wants as long as it doesn't come down too much. Then we'll be in good shape. Now look at the blueprint. Pretty much textbook following this blueprint. So hopefully this follows through into October, November, December. Yeah, and we see that move back to the 280 area. It would be nice. All right, let's focus up here. Here's the bell. Morning, Scotty. Gonna just focus up here and see what we can do. Focus up, focus up. Stop rambling. So yeah, with a trade deal coming and I don't know, there's so much going on. We got the rate cut situation. FOMC yesterday doing stuff. All kinds of earnings. Market is pretty wild right now. Meta was kind of a wild one. on earnings yesterday. Big drop. Continuing down today. Yeah, it looks like market toppy action from Meta. Kind of like back here in 2022, similar sort of move, except it kept going down. So what was this? Like 20% ish drop overnight on Meta back here in 2022, and then it triggered a pretty massive downtrend into the biggest rally we've ever seen. Not saying that's going to happen again, but it does look pretty similar to the same pattern. Yeah, we did hit the max loss yesterday, so kind of annoying, but it happens. So CVU is getting spicy, as expected. Al is more focused now. True. A lot of stuff getting hammered. Really trying to rewire my brain for these swing trades. When stuff is dropping like that, it's kind of the best place to be buying. Got to be a little careful with that. Falling knife situation. Wondering what AMD is going to do because they just had that deal with the government for, I think it was $1 billion deal back here on the 27th. So I'm wondering, since AMD is extended here, are we going to get a pullback? And it already had a nice flag breakout. Geez, that's pretty nice. Maybe we pull back to the highs here and then continue up from there. It is looking like breakout, breakdown, pullback right here in AMD. I should try some of these Switterman trades more. We've been collecting some data. I really think with these big cap kind of moves for the day trades, maybe like the last week or two time frame looks really nice. That's the nice place to be looking for trends. So trends over several days, maybe over weeks. But it seems like months is too much. Then it's more of a swing trade territory. Let's see here. Scott's looking mostly at the last week to 2 weeks on HTF. That makes sense. That is where I've had the most success. Man, coin looks like it had a setup on it. It's like a descending channel breakdown type move. Your short coin, nice. I bet AMD is going to do something nice too. Sort of looks like breakdown pullback to me. I think I'll try a little bit. Nothing huge. Maybe you should wait for this little trend break here before jumping in, but we'll see. Scott's always just slapping it at the lines, so there's a chance it reclaims and just squeezes, but We will try to learn the strategy while these other ones are playing out too. Looks kind of like a reclaim. It's going to be really interesting to see what crypto does. Bitcoin back to 107. It's on a bit of a dip. Honestly, I think it's going to come back and test 100K. Probably can hold, and then maybe we see a rally. Yeah, AMD looks like a reclaim. Maybe that's where I should flip long maybe? I don't know. Yeah, coin's looking nice. All right, CVU. We'll see if it can prove itself now. It's got to hold the dip. And it hasn't pulled back too much, really. It's pulled back a little bit. But if it can hold somewhere right here and then grind its way back up, we might have a long on our hands. Still has to prove itself, though. If you guys are watching this 3-eye Atlas thing, we have a comet from another star. Apparently, this thing formed, it could be over 10 billion years old. It can have frozen material on it from before our sun existed. And it's whipping through our solar system right now. The size of Manhattan. Yeah, CPU not looking great for long now, but it could still prove itself maybe. BYND has been just on a pure fade since that pump. Coin was a channel break. I was long and flipped short on the break and added on retest. Yeah, so channel break was long and flipped short on the break and added on the retest. Nice. Yeah, that was a nice breakdown pullback. Out of coin now. Nice. Let's see what he did here. Nice channel breakdown. So you hit the long and then flip short on the break. Added on the bounce. Cover the dip. Double bottom area. Nice. I like it. See, these flips are what get me. Sweet. It's all about sizing that you can have a meaningful flip. Okay. Tesla's coming down some. Yeah, at those key levels, that's where I kind of get chopped around a little bit because it could retest. It could come through a little bit and then just bounce right off, or it could break for real and then just keep going down. Trust the lines, true. Have to jet. Have a good day. All right, Scotty, see ya. Have a good one. I think I'm going to call it right there, too. I have a few trades on. We're going to let these play out, see how we do. Looking like a much better day than yesterday. But we'll put the updates in Discord later. See if we have some interesting ones. But Gonna call it there. Good luck, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow.